game. We've had a lot of conversations amongst ourselves, what we expect in the draft, and I definitely know that we're in for a very good game today.
I feel like the conversation has to start with returning to form for both of these squads. You've already heard Kadrill and Ender on the desk talking about G2 ramping up and how it feels like they're returning to their final boss status, but also for Madlions on the other side. This team was so exciting, so invigorating, and then they kind of stalled out and fell off. And the hope is that with the preparation time, with the innovation and creativity that this team has brought to our league, that they have returned to form, and we're about to get a very bloody battle.
Yeah, and as we jump into this, the first thing I want to draw attention to is what we can expect. Because the last time G2 and Mad played against each other, Mad got their hands on Kalista in the bot lane. They got a strong early game jungler for Shadow. I believe it was his Lee Sin. And they just attacked Perks and Mickey. They forced them onto the Ezreal and Braum. And it was because they banned so many of the strong AD carries away that it felt like Perks' champion pool was limited. And I feel like that this has been something that we've seen throughout Perks' AD carry career. But now, with so many more powerful AD carries in the meta, things like Caitlyn, things like Senna, things like Jhin, there are so many things that he can default to. I think that Madlions are going to have to find a different strategy, but maybe they won't, as Kalista is open for the G2 squad right now.
You're right, 4 bot lane bans, but Kalista will not be one of them. The immediate first pick lock-in. Now, in the past, Madlions have been very good at adapting and punishing meta bot laners. We think back to Varus when he was in his prime. That was the Senna Wukong combo. Maybe they have something special up their sleeve.
Obviously, Ashe is always going to be a good pick into the Kalista, but I also feel that you could also just go the Senna route, especially when you already see a Shin and a Hecarim. We saw the power of Hecarim yesterday for Helios. I feel like the buffs have just made him a bit overtuned, and the thing is that he just scales so well, and Kalista has a timer put on her. If you pick a champion like Senna, she also just infinitely scales due to her passive, and I think that's kind of the route that Madlions are going to go.
See what the option is going to be here. Final pick in the first phase before we get into the second phase of bans. On the G2 esports side, we've got the Set, a potential flex pick, as well as the Nautilus for Mickey on the bottom side. So a ton of engage options for G2 esports, but no real clear identity yet coming in from the top or mid lane.
And there's the Senna that we were talking about. You see Nautilus and Kalista, you're probably going to go very defensive. So G2, I expect that they'll ban away the Tahm Kench. That is such an obnoxious lane to play against. And right now, Carzzy and Kaiser are just looking for something that can survive and outlast Mickey and Perks down there.
I think Madlions need to throw a ban towards Gangplank. It seems that that is one of the go-to answers when you see the Shen locked in, and with the Mordekaiser already taken away, showcasing that respects towards Wonder as well. Interesting Leona ban coming out from G2. We know that Leona is a pretty solid matchup into the Nautilus, and we also know that Kaiser is more than happy to play this champion, and it would only further add on to the already strong dive that Madlions have drafted for themselves.
Yeah, I think it's about finding that, as well as the fact that Leona is exploding in the LPL right now. That champion is everywhere, and Kaiser is one of our few supports that will still gravitate towards that Leona pick.
And of course now with Camille and Mordekaiser banned away, 2 of the premier top lane options that could cancel the Stand United have been taken off the board. Death Realm, of course, very strong interaction to the Shen, as well as the hookshot wall dive or the Hextech ultimatum. So now we're going to have to see if G2 Esports are worried about shutting down what Arome wants to do, beating him personally in lane, or limiting his global impact.
Ooh,
wow.
We're gonna see the Taric as well. Okay, so Madlions, like, they're committing to the dive, right? We talked about how they often come up with these creative strategies. They expected the Kalista. Their whole game plan right now is you have the Hecarim dive in, Shen ultimate, Taric ultimate, that Hecarim doesn't die, but that Kalista is going to. G2 are now going to answer by getting Caps his most played champion of the split. He's played nothing but Zoe and Syndra all split long. And it looks like he's going to hard pivot and grab the LeBlanc. This is why you don't talk about lock-ins, ladies and gentlemen.
But I think you need to, because he needs to have something that has roam potential, because you have a Kalista lane. I think with this is about making sure that Caps can get unlocked from that lane, can start roaming down to Perks and Mickey and either skirmishing in bot side river or snowballing this. Because again, Madlions, the scaling on that composition is absolutely disgusting. In a late game, it will be so impossible to break them between all of the heals and all of the shields that they're capable of.
Yeah, let me tell you, if you've never experienced a Hecarim with a Taric stun mounted onto him on top of a Taric ultimate, that is one unkillable pony who will most certainly one-shot any squishy member on the opposite team. But Madlions gonna make the final pick here. The Azir coming out for Humanoid.
So the Azir surprises me a little bit when you have so much dive. The fact that you wouldn't go for something more like an Orianna to help follow up on that dive is, you know, kind of goes against what I expected from the comp. However, Azir and Senna synergize very well together because they are very powerful backliners. So when you try to play those typical front-to-back team fights, those two champions work very well together, and they don't need that much peel from their front line.
I just think the range advantage that Azir and Sinnoh are going to have over Kalista,
That's
for
fair.
me, this is a really difficult game for Perkz to play unless he gets snowballed super far ahead. Again, G2 are on a timer, and we've seen them be very successful with these style of compositions, but they need to hit hard, they need to hit fast, and they need to unlock caps if they want to be successful. This is like a super obnoxious comp for Mad.
Well, now it is time. The first game in our series versus G2 and Mad Lions. The winner will secure a spot at Worlds. Here we are on to the Rifts. Gonna have to see what pace of game we're playing. Already expectations that G2 have to get something done here early on. Will it be more slow and controlled from the side of Mad Lions, or will they try to match blow for blow?
So as we're getting into game, I just very quickly want to draw attention to the fact that you'll see on your minimap these two little circles that have been drawn on the minimap, and this is because of the wards that both junglers have dropped very early on into the game. This is very common that you'll see from junglers to get that early sweeper. Both junglers have done it, and it's just to give you that bit of early vision clear, but also to get that bit of information very early on into the game to see any potential delayed invades or any shenanigans that either team may be looking to set up.
Speaking of junglers, da-da-da-da.
Something else you might see on your screen is the fact that it's 100 LEC playoff games for Jankos. He's now tied with Hylissang, also at 100, of course, till he plays his series. And additionally, Reckless still #1, but Jankos and Hylissang tied for second. So obviously, shout out to Jankos. Congrats to him for making it this far. Maybe his 100th game will be a win, maybe not. We're going to get to find out.
He's old now.
He's an old man. We had him on EU4.
Well, he's playing set, guys. He's officially, his hands have officially gone bad. That's how you know when the set has to come out.
But this is kind of one of the big hype matchups that we do want to keep our eyes on as the series develops. You know, back-to-back MVP Jankos versus the all-pro jungler and Shadow. The issue is that Jankos has been sort of out of form, but maybe changing that up is looking for a level 2 gank, and surprise, there's a ward.
There's the value of the sweeper early as well, so he's going to spot that one out, deny some vision in the mid lane. But also, I like that you highlight that for us because Shadow is a player that I think in this game is going to be one of the primary carries. On Hecarim, one of the big debates I always have with Hecarim is if you ever fall behind, you want to get that Trinity Force as quickly as possible. But if you're not getting the money, if you're not getting the investment, then that gets delayed and things go wrong. But I feel like Shadow is so good at getting those early resources, getting that farm, getting that priority, that he sets himself up for success as you enter the mid game.
My thing is that he's playing with an Azir who usually needs a lot of farm. Humanoid should be able to sidestep that. They're forcing
Forward,
flash.
extra movement speed.
Oh, gotta watch the chains.
Have to walk away. One more auto. Cap's just gonna finish that off. First blood going over to Jankos. Very classic level 2 set gank coming in.
And excuse me, no chains that are available. I believe it's just distortion in the queue there from Caps, but he does make it count, as now they can punish this flash. And you have to gank Azir early before he gets his ability. Like level 5, he can just perma push, and then he's basically safe in the lane forever. So G2 needed to make that one count to set up more kill pressure here, which Caps immediately starts aggressively trading on.
This is also just very classic G2. I think that when you look at this roster and how they found so much success in the past, it was Jankos plays through Caps, he gives Caps a lead, Caps then leaves. He doesn't lane anymore, he uses that priority to influence the rest of the map, and by getting that flash out from Humanoid early, that powerful lane prio that you typically get from Azir suddenly gets a lot harder to utilize as the junglers fight for the scuttle in the river. Looks like Jankos will be able to secure that one as well. So
it was who got the scuttle?
It's actually a creek, Betty. I know you were hesitant to call it a river. It's technically a creek. No, it looks like so. Shadow will be able to get that one and walk away. And as you said, have to keep our eyes on him as a jungler. Jankos already impacting the map. Shadow, of course, on the Hecarim may have to wait a little bit longer. Now, admittedly, people think of him as the Lee Sin one-trick, but the last time he played Hecarim, he did have a phenomenal game. Of course, you'll remember the Senna and Lux combo, I believe.
But there's the priority that you were talking about there, Vedius. Without flash, Humanoid has to have the big wave crash into him, and immediately Caps and Jankos start bleeding over into Shadow's jungle, kicking him off the Raptor camp. So losing that flash on Azir is now already impacting Hecarim.
Yeah, and this is exactly what Kadra was talking about on the analyst desk, where the moment Caps gets some kind of lead, he's just very much about, okay, I don't need to play mid lane anymore. I'm just going to be as obnoxious as possible and ruin the enemy jungler's game. And when we talked about Shadow earlier, we talked about how he is going to be one of the big carries of this game, putting this Hecarim behind is so valuable for G2 because it gets them to their item spikes earlier, and it will put them in a better position for these early to mid-game team fights.
And also, there's a lot of champions that need resources on Mad because it's Azir and Hecarim. Both these champions need to farm a ton, and usually you give your Raptor camp to Azir, but because it is a Hecarim who is rushing towards that Trinity Force, he's going to want to have his Raptor camp. So I think that's a big reason why Humanoid, it's not super uncommon to see a teleport on Azir, but I suspect that when we start moving around our bot lanes, that Azir is going to be playing out into a side lane instead of the normal mid lane position. So you're competing with Senna, who's not going to take the Raptor camp, giving it to Hecarim, and hopefully snowballing Shadow. But we do need to make sure where Humanoid is lining up on the map for the lane phase to make sure that Shadow isn't sharing his jungle camps with Azir.
Resource allocation is going to be a big question as we move later and later in the game. Maybe Carsey takes more of a backseat. We'll have to see. Of course, on the top side of the map, Wonder is starting Cole, clearly very comfortable in this lane, pulling very far ahead in terms of individual CS. Shen ulti, something that we always talk about. The first one or two very much have to be impactful here, potentially in the mid lane, potentially on the bottom side. Paired with Shadow, it is a very strong ability, but if he falls too far behind, the gangplank will outvalue as we now see a bit of aggressive trading in the bottom lane.
But it's one of the nice things about Taric, especially into Nautilus. Like Rakan, like Nautilus, when they just kind of go in a straight line at you, Taric can counter them in lane because it's very easy to set up the stun like there, which is exactly how Kaiser traded on Mickey, and always something to watch for and practice in your solo queue games.
Of course, now Dragon is going to fall down. G2 just continue to get these small advantages in the early game. It's only 6 minutes in, and that's almost 1.5K in their favor. Humanoid, sadly, now out of mana. No blue buff in the area for him to grab either. So very difficult laning phase is only going to get worse as Caps doesn't look like he has any interest in pushing this wave out and doing Humanoid a favor, but seems very keen on making sure that Humanoid can never back comfortably.
And I like that you highlighted that, Dracos, because you can see, based on how Caps is freezing the wave, why not having your flash is really horrible as an Azir in this matchup. Because Caps is doing a very deliberate job of keeping the wave basically around, like, when you think about the lane, I don't know, in terms of 100, I always see this as like the 25 mark versus the 75 mark. And by keeping it at 25, basically allows, look at Jankos and Perks right now. They're basically saying, if you come anywhere near my line, you are going to die.
Oh no, they brought Mickey too!
The Humanoid dies meme was last split. You can't bring it back this split. It's outdated. Oh, it's not outdated. Oh no, Humanoid, not like this. Perks now on the chase down, flashing through, waiting to pull the spears out. One more, boom, gets him on the fade away. That's just brutal.
So the plan, I thought, was that Caps would roam. Turns out, the rest of G2 is roaming to mid lane. Poor Humanoid there. You could see that he was very aware that this was a possibility. He thought he could clear out that 1 million, but G2 committed 2 flashes to getting that kill, and they also won't lose any farm bot. So G2 continuing to snowball and build advantages in this early.
Yeah, that's the thing. Losing the flash on Kalista and Nautilus isn't going to impact them in the lane against Senna and Taric. It's not like they're under kill pressure there.
Well, and additionally, one of the things that we saw in the lane swap yesterday is people trying to find a way to punish Senna's lack of wave throw. Let me tell you, Senna Taric do not push very fast. On the other hand, Kalista Nautilus much quicker, and you're starting to see that pay off as they're free to roam to mid lane, come back just in time to collect the CS, and nothing's going to stop them from rinsing and repeating there.
He's doing it again. So obviously Caps dragging the minion aggro right there as we're talking about the freeze. It means that when he eventually drops aggro there, his minions will now focus fire 1 minion down, which means that the wave will always be a minion advantage for Madlions, meaning it will stay on Caps' side of the lane, and that is how he's effectively creating that freeze and ruining Humanoid's life.
Really good wave management coming out from Caps, but now Madla answer back. They've brought 4 in mid.
It's going to be tough for them to follow up any further, though, but I like that there's a bit of aggression coming out. Very difficult early game for Mad so far. 2K now in the favor of G2, and they're ready for a brawl here in the mid lane. Shen pushed under the tower. Wonder can move first. Mad Lions, what is the play here? Everyone has abandoned the bottom lane. Herald seems to be the focus. The Hex Flash over the wall. They will catch out Kaiser. Now the GP ult is coming in. Kaiser trying to find the disengage. Is going to get pulled back, though. Arome now in the midst of the fight has locked up a Perks. Perks pulling back, though, with the ultimate. Now going to throw back in and lock Humanoid out. In the meantime, G2 getting a kill. Mad Lions walking away empty-handed. Another hook comes out just in time to take down Arome, and G2 are demolishing Mad.
That is absolute disaster. Look at that gold lead at only 9 minutes in the game on a composition that needed, like, if it got ahead, it was going to be so strong on 1 and 2 item breakpoints. Like, this is exactly where G2 want to be, and there's no reason for Madlions to try to force that. That's fine. Bring extra members there because you need to help Humanoid out with his wave, but this actually just looks like indecision from me for Madlions. Were they going to try to force the Herald, or are they just helping Humanoid reset his wave? They get caught out, and now they're at a massive gold disadvantage against a composition that's just going to run away from them.
It's the classic question that so many casters ask, which is, why are they fighting right now? You can see that Madlions is trying to help Humanoid push out the wave so that he's not permanently getting frozen on. Okay, I get it, that makes sense. But then they're kind of setting up for the Rift Herald, and they're saying, okay, maybe we can sneak this one away before G2 can respond. But they don't have the items to force this fight. They're behind in gold, they're behind in experience, and by being in that position, they just gave G2 the opportunity to force it, and G2 just has the stronger comp at this point in the game. So G2, of course, they're going to take that fight every day.
And now, at this point, Madlions actually just need to like jam their foot on the brake, slow everything down, and start funneling this farm again into Hecarim and Azir. Hecarim, like, Shadow needs to be like, guys, I'm not doing anything unless it's super obvious or I have Trinity Force. Like, I'm sorry, 5 minutes, just leave me alone and stop feeding.
I think if Mad want to make a play, bot lane is the place. Perks and Mickey have no flashes. Wonder and Caps do have their teleports, so maybe that does skew things a little bit, but Hecarim plus Shen, a very devastating combo that you can quite easily attack a flashless lane with. But as you rightly said, Frosk, I think I'm in agreement where you just power farm right now. Your whole goal should just be to get to those items, try and go for the scaling game, because right now, you're not really in a position to make any moves.
And on the other side, Infernal spawning in 11 seconds, you can already see that Jankos has path towards the bottom side of the map. I expect that he'll use the Herald in the Kalista lane usually, unless he really wants to unlock Caps that much faster. You could see a situation where Perks and Mickey again rotate to Caps, and they use the Herald mid lane to kick out Azir's lane and then unlock this LeBlanc, but it's all about this bot river control.
And for now, Jankos is just going to walk into this pit and start it up uncontested. Good timing. Of course, he does start it right as all of Madlions are recalling and just returning to the map, so we will get prio there. All of G2 set up on the bottom side as well. Normally, we'd get to talk about, hey, Madlions at base more recently. Maybe they have a bit more in their pockets in terms of items, but sadly, they're just so far behind. There's not a lot of options, and Kaiser gonna have to run for the hills, waiting for now on the ultimate, is gonna get pulled back here. Aftershock still proc. Doesn't look like he wants to use it at this stage. Pullback is there, and he will drop in the end. Another one going down for Mad.
A clean pick coming out from G2. They set up good vision around the bot side of the map, and Kaiser, he wasn't even overextended, the poor boy.
They knew they were there.
He was just trying to get a bit of vision in his own half of the jungle, but now, ultimate from Humanoid.
Scooped back. The E will not connect. Big ulti coming in. Caps with the sidestep, though, will walk away, and that has to hurt.
I mean, I'll compliment Caps on surviving that, but that was way too aggressive to try to walk that direction into the lane phase, and he was rightfully punished for it. There's the Herald that we were talking about earlier, and Hecarim is looking for a deep flank here, so perhaps they catch Perks out. Here comes Shen.
Gonna get dunked back down now. The TP's coming in. Jankos is gonna be able to buy so much time. Arome now has to run for his life. They're instead gonna try to turn on Mickey. Mickey can spider knot his way out. He's waiting. The delayed route will connect there, and now another TP coming in on top of the GPL. But Madlions, they're here, but there's nothing for them to grab. That was a safety TP coming in from Humanoid.
They expended so much there. They used multiple teleports, multiple ultimates, and all they really got was Mickey's flash, I believe.
So I could understand the logic from Mad, you know, no flash, no TP on Caps, we have a numbers advantage, but they just couldn't lock anyone down. They didn't even commit to Perks because all of his summoner spells had come back up, and I think maybe the TP from Humanoid was a little late, so I think the execution there from Mad just wasn't quite on point, and G2 walk away. Like, they've got a 6K gold lead now. We're not even at 50 minutes yet.
But that's my thing, like, I understand what you're saying. Like, you could see exactly the play that Madlions wanted, but then I ask this question. Why try to force that play? Why was Hecarim on bot side of the map when his top side camps were up and he's not farming? It's like that mentality of, I'm Lee Sin, I need to gank, I need to go in, when he's playing Hecarim. I
would argue, I suppose the logic is, we're so far behind right now. G2's very good at snowballing, especially with this comp. If we don't do something, we won't get an opportunity to stall. So the logic could be, let's try. There's a brief window here. They didn't lose anything off the back of that play. Things are a little bit delayed, but things didn't work out in their favor. And now, as we can see, the gold is starting to mount more in the favor of G2. And they're just slowly working their way up towards mid and top side so they can secure more early out of towns.
I mean, 6K Double Dragons, and the fact that your top laner alone is 2K ahead of the competition it's not a done deal, but G2 keeps snowballing like this. Mad are not going to get a chance to stay out. They're not going to get a chance to play the composition the way they intended to. Arome Just barely out of the range of the hook. Has to wait on the Spirit's Refuge to walk as much damage as he can. Now trying to dash to safety, knowing that Jankos will spell his death. Rome now making it out, but Shadow, Torgal now mounted to him, is going to go right in onto Wonder, trying to get some damage down, but they just don't have the stats. The Hecarim is so weak, he does no damage.
Also, really well turret aggro management there from G2. I think they fumbled the initial dive execution, but were able to fix it with the Kalista ult.
Re-engage the Face Breaker, now going to pull in. Jankos trying to fish for the ult, wants to throw someone back into the team, but won't find the opportunity, so instead G2 will just be happy to take the top lane tower, and the gold lead will continue to extend almost 7K now.
We see, I mean, this isn't a new strategy of playing for dragon stacking, taking a composition that does have a timer on it, less scaling options, and then just making sure you get early dragon control that you snowball, and then you can close this with the Soul or the Elder possibility, and that seems to be what G2 are doing. But there's kind of two different trains of thoughts over the world, and in Europe in particular. There's the scaling thing, where you're just waiting for third dragon fight, fourth dragon fight, you can get your Azirs wherever you need them to go, or there's the LPL method, where you're locking in Graves in Italy and you're just blitzing at people. And true, this is still the set jungle, this isn't a Graves or an Italy, but this is much more an LPL style coming out of G2, where they're just playing this game done fast. And I think that they're one of the only teams alongside Mad Lions who could actually execute this consistently in the LEC.
And I think that we're now in a position for Mad where it's looking obviously very scary. Like, being at this gold deficit is one thing, but typically, if they were like close, if they were at a 2 or a 3K gold deficit at this point, I'd say that's somewhat expected. With the comps that you're playing against, with the matchups, like, that's pretty normal. As long as they can maintain that, then they have a chance. But Shadow doesn't even have his training force yet. He's level 9. So he's the same level as Perks. Kazi's a level behind. Arome's a level behind. Humanoid is a little bit ahead, but XP-wise, item-wise, Mad are not in a position to fight for this third Drake. And depending on whether they feel forced to, this could be the fight that ultimately locks the game in for G2.
And here's the thing that's so scary, is that this is the biggest gold lead in summer at 15 minutes, and the second largest gold lead all year. This is hands down one of the second largest all year at 15 minutes in terms of deficit.
Wow.
This is massive, massive advantage for G2. Because Frostguard, you're so right, we've seen so many teams try to rush for Dragon Soul, but G2 aren't just rushing for Dragon Soul, right? That's what you're talking about. They're so scrappy. They're just killing everyone everywhere. And you're right, there are these little bits of hope for Mad Lions, but knowing how G2 is playing right now, fans, teams that are playing against them might have to accept now that this is in fact G2 back at full power after what was a lackluster regular season.
I will say that G2 are still just doing an exceptional job punishing Mad's mistakes. While this is a good performance from G2, I do think that Mad, especially in this best of 5, if they lose this game, if they're unable to turn around, this is something very easy where you walk backstage and you're like, why did you choose to fight here? Why did you get caught out here? It's very clear with this game got away from them.
So while I do agree with that, I think that this also started with really great play from Jankos in the mid lane. Like, the heavy investment into Humanoid, trying to put him behind. I think that then put Mad in a situation where they were like, okay, I guess we kind of have to fight, and that's where I'm like, yeah, okay, you didn't need to force a lot of these fights, you didn't need to be over-aggressive, and that's why I really want to highlight Jankos, because, you know, we joked about him being old. This is his 100th, is that how you say, a 100th LEC playoff game?
Yes.
He's now got 100% kill participation. He was the one that set up this early game gold lead for G2, and he's had a bad split. He wasn't even in our top 3 All-Pro, right? But here he is coming up against Shadow, and I think he's having a commanding performance right now.
And while we do kind of tune back into what's happening on our screen, we expected a bit of a lull state between timers. This second Herald, very important still for G2. Because again, they're in their window of power. We expect them to be the team that has agency and tempo right now. And getting the second Herald is super important to crack mid lane tower, especially against an Azir. Like, Mad aren't dead yet, but they have fewer chances right now. And G2 are kind of approaching this moment where they're ready to pull the trigger. And if they execute on it, they can close this game before Mad get a chance to fight back.
Just slowly but surely systematically denying so much of the vision, now breaking the tier 1 as well, moving on to the tier 2, and the map just continues to get smaller and smaller for Mad Lions. Opportunities getting less and less, room to play getting less and less. Where's the Hecarim even going to farm? Where's Humanoid even going to go? Caps jumping into his base to hunt him down before a tier 2 even drops. That is a terrifying thing to deal with.
It's a great example of how to snowball a game, and this is what you would typically expect from G2. They are playing extremely well with the advantages that they have right now, and Caps' LeBlanc is definitely a scary thing. I don't think we've even, this is his first play of the split, I think, on LeBlanc, and it is a very convincing one, that's for sure.
I think LeBlanc's just so punishing, obviously, when you get vision control over areas, because if you face check into her and if she's ever ahead of the clock, she'll have kill pressure on virtually anyone.
100%, yeah.
And obviously then a player like Caps who just knows how to take over a game. Cadril talked about it on the analyst desk. You know, Humanoid has had a great split, but it's through his team fighting. And when he groups up as the 5v5 with Madlions, that he's really shown on things like his Orianna in particular, whereas Caps is just a one-man army. This guy eats up maps. He just makes you terrified no matter where you go.
And what's actually insane is you're looking at Caps over and over again, just surprise Humanoid, take out almost, 70, 80% of his health. He's only 100 gold ahead of Humanoid. Yep. Everyone else on G2 are the people who've been benefiting from tower plates, the people who've been benefiting from this free time to farm in lanes. Caps is just doing this mechanically in a matchup that he's comfortable in.
It's benefiting from the pressure that Jankos and Caps have created on the map.
Yep. And also, like, we have to remember that Wonder did have a winning matchup top. Perks and Mickey also had a winning matchup bot. And they played their matchups well, and that just then even further snowballed when they were able to play through mid so well. And of course, all those fights they won. So now we're at 9K as we're about to approach the 20-minute mark. I would say that if Madlions come back from this, that is one of the most impressive comebacks I've ever seen.
And obviously the issue that we've been waiting on is the potential for G2 to also play around a pressure point of Baron. Not necessarily to secure it, although I think that they are a bit more reliant on it because they are against an Azir.
Can we go to the pin full screen just for a second here? Because Caps just, by the way, while we're talking, just in the little picture on the corner of your screen, just got a flash out from Arome. Never mind, we have to fight in two places at the same time. It is a G2 game, why not? Targon now coming in, Suplex dunking down, but the damage is going to connect, however, not nearly enough. Haymaker coming in, Arome now in the midst of the entire team. Perks throwing Mickey back to the front line, but not going to get a lot. Fighting in the funnel here, actually very good for this Azir, but he can't really get in a comfortable position to auto. Caps into the backside, doesn't have the damage to finish the job. The delayed snare, now the Hecarim moving in. Wonder has to run for the hill. Shadow wants to turn it against Perks. He looks to Wonder. This is so much gold for the Hecarim. Oh my god! 3 shutdowns for the Hecarim. This is nightmare status for G2. I didn't know how mad we're going to find a way back in, but that is a damn good start.
And just as you said it, Dracos, the sheer amount of gold that Shadow just picked up there is massive. There's, oh god, oh no.
You know, and we were just talking about how if Mad came back into this game, it would be one of the biggest comebacks ever, and that's definitely a big way to come back. Dracos, you summed it up perfectly. This position is fantastic for an Azir. He's just free to just sit back with his soldiers. The ultimate from Tarek came coming up clutch because he was going to die without it, that's for sure. But notice how his soldiers, you can't get past them. They're just dealing so much damage. Yes, Mad gets zoned back a little bit by the GP ultimate, but the moment G2 go for this re-engage, this is when things start looking great for Mad.
And that's the range that we were talking about in draft phase. You know, especially in these choke points, like you said, Vedis, against Senna and Azir, it is really difficult for G2's composition to get into that backline outside of LeBlanc and assassinate.
But now Caps continue to dive forward. The teams are not done yet. They're ready to fight. Ocean Soul for G2. Would feel like game over even after everything that went so well for Mad in the previous fight. That said, G2 now painfully aware of what they have to throw away after the previous fight. Arome, no flash after Caps' play previously in the side lane. Shadow on the backside, ulting over the wall, but not immediately hitting someone. Perks is just going to get dunked down, though. Clean coordination coming in from Madlions. Janko's trying to buy a bit more space for Wonder and Caps. What can they get done? Mickey in the midst of everything, but no, the GP and the LeBlanc just running down Madlions. Shadow wants to get something back. Janko's with the pullback, and it's 3 members still standing for G2. Are you kidding me?
And this was a fight that initially looked promising for Mad. After they one-shot Perks, you think, okay, this could be it, but Caps and Wonder pick up the slap. Jankos just, he tanked everything in that fight, soaking up so much damage. Mad didn't have the damage to match, and now G2 will secure themselves an Ocean Soul.
I also think that it was Madlions approaching the fight wrong for the composition that they had. You know, Shadow looking for a flank, I don't necessarily hate on a Hecarim, but when you look at the Azir and the Senna, again, they want really slow fights. They want the heals to be stacking up. They want a lot of the shields. They want more of the Sand Soldiers put down. This is not a run in and find a massive flank on this Hecarim at this point in the game. So I think Madlions really need to reevaluate how they're executing on these fights and what everyone's responsibility is in the fight.
So I wonder if Arome's ultimate was even up for that fight.
No, because I believe he used it in the previous fight.
Yeah, I was going to say, it just came off cooldown right now, and obviously they want to try and contest this Ocean Soul, and I understand that, but remember that this fight started off with Arome clearing a ward, And so that initial combo of using Hecarim Dive with the Shen ultimate with the Taric, like, everything was just kind of all over the place for Mad, and it could have potentially been a good fight, but as you rightly said, Frosk, I think the execution was a little bit off there, and now G2 is back in the position, they're back in control, not that they really lost it before, even after losing a fight, to try and close out game 1 of this series.
And the problem in that fight is there's just too many damage sources on G2, so yeah, they did a great job of killing Perks, but Wonder is also super fed, and you just line yourself up for those barrels so perfectly that if we ever get a chance to look back at the fight, or if the AD looks at it, I wonder how much damage is actually dropped as they're trying to kill Perks.
I think it really is the 2 champions that you needed to have fed, though, because we keep talking about how Perks is going to struggle to fight into this Azir and this Senna at this point, whereas a Gangplank ultimate and LeBlanc will just delete people.
And now Arome's running once again. They really want to punish this man for not having a flash for the second fight in a row. Redemption now coming in, though, trying to focus their damage onto Wonder. Big ult coming in from the Senna, going to do a good amount back, but now Wonder running for the hill. Shadow going to be in trouble. Shen coming back in with the ultimate. Shadow too little, too late on the Taric ultimate. The rest of the team now collapsing. Carzzy does not have a lot of damage, however. Humanoid trying to throw down as much as he can off to the side, but Cap's too mobile. Remember, 19 stacks on the Medjai. Potentially more on the back of that last play, but Perks sticking around for too long. Currently outranged. Mickey in the midst of everything. Cap's waiting for the double distortion in. Doesn't have the cooldown quite yet. Will get snared on the backside, but they're just chasing them down. Slowly but surely, G2 are pulling ahead in the fight. The Ocean Soul healing them so much across this exchange. Can't hit a target quite yet, but can't hit a hook. Cap's jumping in. Kaiser certainly next on the list. Carzzy going to follow. There is nothing left to be done. G2 are dissecting Mad Lions.
I feel like this is the book versus the horse right now. That is 25 stacks on the Medjais. Caps is doing a ton of damage on this LeBlanc, playing out these fights in extended iterations really beautifully. Shadow, however, got another shutdown off of the Gangplank. So I think all 5 of his kills have all been shut down gold.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, but he's still only level 12. Even Perks is a higher level than him right now. They're going to secure that bot inhibitor, and as you rightly said, Frosk, I think that fight was just very patient, very well played from G2, and the player I want to draw attention to in this fight is actually Perks when he joins it later. So G2 think they found a good pick here. Hecarim, thanks to the mobility, is able to make his way down, assist in this 2 versus 2, and you could see initially, actually, oh, this fight is actually looking pretty good for Mad Lions. You know, the Gangplank takes a lot of damage, Perks, and then keep your eyes on what Perks does in this situation here. He's keeping his position because he's aware that the Azir is coming from the TP, and he wants to back off a little bit. So we're going to see, just notice how he's staying just out of range and avoiding Humanoid. He knows, okay, I can't commit just yet. I've got to wait for the Nautilus to arrive. The moment Nautilus goes in, Caps goes in. And this is when you start to see Mad getting sporadic. They're not sure who to focus in the fight, and that's when Perks sees his opportunity, gets the kill onto Humanoid, and now the rest can clean up. And just a lot of really good small decision-making from Mickey, Caps, and Perks here to actually come out ahead, even though they were at a numbers disadvantage in this fight.
And Kaiser tries to body block the hook, tries to put himself in a position to sacrifice his life for Carzzy, but it will not work. And now G2 are just hunting. Humanoid running for the hills. The GP, oh god, there's no escape. Yanko suplexes him over the wall, dunks him down, and this feels like it's going to be it for Mad Lions. Ocean Soul, there's just too much in the favor of G2. Maybe a miracle, but otherwise G2 off to a strong start here in the first game in the series.
And there's the example of why it was so important that Wonder was also getting fed on this Gangplank, because of the reach of his ultimate against the range potential of the Azir. That Humanoid really had nowhere to go, and now that means that G2 can blow up the backline pretty successfully between 25 stacks LeBlanc and very powerful Gangplank.
And, yeah, and they're 10k up. I mean, and they got Ocean Soul. They're just too strong, right? But the thing I want to talk about is that when we jumped into this series, Vedius, you brought up what the previous series looked like, the previous playoff series, where it was 5 games and it was about whoever won the early game, bam, smashed it home and took it here. Now G2 dominated the early game. My question as we get closer to game 2 is, can we see a similar performance from Mad, where they can be the team to dominate the early game? Or are they going to keep opting for more scaling options and just trying to match G2 a little bit in the early and wait for later?
I mean, it seemed to me that Mad came into this game with a clear plan. They knew the Kalista would be locked in. They had a dive comp in mind. Ooh, as we see it engage on the Wonder.
Pulled back, does have the Hourglass, buys himself a bit more time stopwatch. Rather's Wonder is now going to get one shot. They're fighting in a funnel once again. Perfect setup for Humanoid. He's going to do a good amount of damage back onto Jankos. Jankos will get shredded down, not nearly enough of a shield from the Grit. Carzzy now on the chase, slowing him down, slowly but surely trying to finish this one off. Perks with the pullback. Will they look for the re-engage? You can tell that they're debating, but the minions are already pushing into the base. The more time, oh my god, the damage from Cap. 25 stack Medjais. He's just playing with his food, leaping in, leaping out. All too easy as Perks just continues to run. Humanoid trying to slide and glide his way in, but the double kill now for Perks. Looking for a triple, a perfect hook for Mickey, and they're just making a montage right on the corpses of Mad Lions. All too easy, and that's going to do it here in game 1. G2 reigns supreme. Unless the minions, no, they'll be there in time.
And the three-man squad of Perks, Mickey, and Caps once again showcasing great patience, great positioning to come out on top. A convincing game one from G2 Esports.
And the question we had is who is going to return to form, and G2 have certainly returned to form. This is Final Boss G2 in game one of the series.
Have to see if Madlions can be prepared in the games to follow. For now, G2 and Caps going legendary across this game. A dominant performance in game one.
Now back to your question, Dracos, before all of the chaos took hold. Do Madlions try to contest in the early game? I don't think the composition was the problem. I actually think it was quite a cool composition.
Yep.
I think it was entirely execution, specifically on Humanoid. That's kind of where everything spiraled out of control, is him playing very greedy in the lane, getting punished, not having his flash, drawing resources from the rest of his team. So I wouldn't hate it if we actually saw them kind of run back the same type of style, but I do think that they need to be aware that G2 will punish the lack of wave clear on Senna. They will constantly